Good evening, everyone. Um, I posted my very first blog on YouTube yesterday, and as of the last check, I have exactly 0 views, which seems about right, if we're honest. Um, keep plugging away and see how it goes, and see if we catch any traction here. But for now, this is kind of therapeutic for me. I get to kind of talk things through with myself, and at least if I'm recording a video, I'm not just talking to myself, right? Then I'm not crazy. So one of the things I mentioned in my video yesterday was the fact that after I finish my bachelor's degree, I really want to go to law school. So I thought maybe I'd tell a little bit about why I want to do that and what kind of occurred in my life that got me to that point. So I'm 31. Uh, Most normal people by now have kind of decided on a career path and have made some strides into that field. But I'm extremely stubborn, so I have kind of blazed my own trail, which nobody tells you is not actually as much fun as it sounds. Actually, that's not true. Some people will tell you that, and other people will realize that you're a stubborn idiot and will just let you do your own thing. So, for the last 8 years or so, I've been in the security industry. I've been in the healthcare security industry for over 3 now. I really like the job, I really do. It doesn't pay the greatest. It's not terrible. It pays fairly well, but it's not the greatest. And there's certainly a lot of things involved in the job that make it a more challenging job than other jobs. And at some point, maybe I'll tell you some really good hospital stories, but I'll start with one that's okay for now. I was working at a hospital. I obviously have to make sure that I'm not violating any HIPAA rules or anything here. I don't want to give enough information that a patient may be identified. Um, in our hospital, in the emergency department, we have an area known as behavioral health. This is a locked portion of the emergency department. You cannot simply walk in and out. It's controlled both in and out. And most of the patients there are not free to leave. And this was the case with a patient that I had been dealing with throughout the day. You kind of have to picture this area as sort of a segment of a hallway with patient rooms on one side and a staff area on the other side. And there's a number of rooms in this hallway. And on this particular day, on one end of the hallway, we had, um, well, a particularly difficult patient. On the other end of the hallway, we had a regular. Most people are probably familiar with the idea of hospital regulars. Oftentimes they're homeless or addicted or have any of a number of other kind of social ills that make them come to the hospital fairly regularly. This particular regular um, has never been necessarily violent, but is oftentimes very uncooperative. And so the patient on, we'll just say, the left side of the hallway um, had gotten upset to the point where staff had decided that she needed medication. And the patient on the right side of the hallway was kind of doing his usual thing. He was upset, he was verbal and angry, and that sort of thing. And so they assembled a team of clinical staff, RNs, LPNs, and nursing assistants. And they were going to go into the left patient's room and administer a sedative. That's done with an intramuscular injection. So we all went out to the hallway. I was accompanying these staff members for their safety, of course. And the patient on the right end of the hallway started walking down the hallway towards us at a kind of a brisk pace. And so he caught my attention, I know that I've already got, I don't know, 6 or 8 people going into this other room. So I peel off to deal with this guy. Say, hey, buddy, I need you to stay in your room for a little while we deal with this other thing. Surprisingly, he was like, he was cool with it. He was like, oh, okay, sure, I'll go back into my room. That was unusual, but I wasn't gonna argue. I wasn't gonna second guess. I was just like, cool, this guy's doing what I need to do. He's dealt with. Now I'm gonna go to this other room. And so I walk down the hallway. I round the corner to turn into this room just in time to see this patient who's laying flat on her bed, pull her leg back and kick an RN square in the side of the head with full force. And in the moment, training kicks in, you run in, you work on restraining the patient. The patient was put into restraints. We call them 4-point restraints. It's one on both wrists, one on both ankles. They're, you know, restrained to the bed to the point where they can't hurt themselves or anyone else. Afterwards, when I kind of have the chance to figure out what all happened, what went wrong, that's the point where you start second guessing yourself and you start feeling guilty. If I'd have been in the room, maybe I would have been able to stop that kick. Maybe I would have taken the kick instead of the nursing staff. You just feel terrible because you're there to be the person that protects people. That's the job. You're protecting people. So obviously, I felt really, really bad about that. And this particular patient, even though she's very behavioral, very angry, she's perfectly capable of understanding right from wrong. And that was one of the things that, I talked to the doctor about. Does she know right from wrong? Yes, absolutely, she does. And then I talked to the victim, obviously, asked her, what she thought about the whole thing. I asked her, do you want to press charges? Um, Thinking back about it now, I got kicked too. I wasn't particularly concerned about it because it happens. So yeah, technically I was a victim of an assault, whatever. I didn't get kicked in the head. And so this RN decided, yep, we're gonna uh, pursue charges. So I called the police, et cetera, et cetera. The cops get there. They take statements from me. They take statements from the RN who was kicked. Presumably other people that were witnesses. Luckily, in those particular rooms, we have CCTV, so it was all on video. There's no question as to what happened and who was the victim and who was the aggressor and all of that. So uh, the police ended up arresting her at that time, which sometimes happens, sometimes doesn't happen, depending on a patient's medical needs. But they arrested her immediately because she was able to be discharged to jail. And fortunately, that went without too much of an issue. And even better, the cops actually um, charged this person with the correct charges. In the state of Minnesota, um, if you assault an emergency room staff, police officers, firefighters, paramedics, probably some other people, and you leave any lasting damage whatsoever, if it's just a scuff, it counts. You can be charged with 4th-degree felony assault. And in this case, this particular nurse, I'm not going to say exactly what happened, but she suffered a medical issue due to the assault. And so this person was charged with 4th-degree assault for kicking the nurse. She was charged with 5th-degree assault for kicking me because I wasn't really injured. And things went pretty well that night. I was pretty satisfied with how law enforcement handled it. But oftentimes, law enforcement will undercharge people. Oftentimes, instead of the fourth degree felony, they'll charge people with a fifth degree misdemeanor because it's just easier. But what happened in this case is also something that happens in a lot of cases, which is the prosecutor's office let it down, way down. My fifth degree assault was dismissed completely. The fourth degree felony was pled down to a fifth degree misdemeanor, and I was outraged. I really was, because look, again, if I get kicked, I mean, I'm gonna make sure that they get charged with it, but it's kind of part of the job. When my staff is victimized, I get ticked off, especially when, this person intentionally caused a significant injury to another person who was there to try to help her. It's ridiculous. You can't do stuff like that, and you need to be held to account. Now, don't get me wrong. I understand that people in mental health crises, which I'm not sure that this person was necessarily in, but I'll give her the benefit of the doubt. People in mental health crises sometimes make really stupid decisions. But that type of action in an emergency room environment is extraordinarily common. I guarantee you, if you know anyone that works in an emergency room, you go ask them. Ask them, hey, have you ever been assaulted? They'll probably say yes. Do you know someone in the emergency department that's been assaulted? They will absolutely say yes. Even in a tiny little rural hospital, if they have an emergency room, they absolutely catch all of the crap from the whole area that they serve. Whether that's people who are extremely high on drugs, whether that's people who are homicidal, that's a medical issue. And I guess, it kind of is. But in my opinion, that's a medical issue that needs to be taken care of in a jail, because they're more equipped to handle it. You drop off a homicidal or suicidal or whatever person in a hospital, they're not necessarily equipped to handle that stuff, even if, yes, it is a mental health condition. But I'm kind of getting off track here. The point is I got a little bit ticked off about this case, and the city prosecutor's office gave me a call. And they said, hey, we wanted to let you know that we've resolved this case. I'm sorry, no, they were asking me what I thought. They asked for my opinion. I'm sure that they were very, very interested in my opinion. But they asked for my opinion. Hey, this is kind of the deal that we want to make with this person. What do you think of that? And I told them that I wasn't happy about it. And the person on the phone kind of got a little snippy with me, and they said, well, when you're the prosecutor, you can make these decisions. Excuse you? One, super rude. Two, you know what? Challenge accepted. And so that was the day, I went home, talked to my wife. I'm like, look, I think that I need to go back to school. I think I need to go back to school, one, because honestly, this job is not necessarily going to give me, amazing paths into, you know, middle management. Not that I really love that idea, but I have a growing family. I need to make some more money, and at this point in my life, if it's not now, it might be never. Unfortunately, my wife is an amazing person. She completely understood. She was on board with it. She, to this day, has backed me up on it and has done, work that I would have otherwise done around the house and that kind of thing. But it's the desire to protect people that really has gotten me to want to prosecute crimes. At the same time, I'm not, an overzealous prosecutor, hang everybody. Well, no, people have problems, and I understand that people have problems, and I'd like to be able to help those who can be helped. But I also think that I have the ability to identify people that won't be helped. They don't want to be helped. They're maybe, you know what, maybe they've resigned themselves to the fact that this is how my life is, this is how I'm going to act for the rest of my life, and I don't care what anyone says or does or tries to do to help me. I'm just going to keep going down this road. And for those people, especially for those people that victimize others, they need to suffer consequences for their actions. And whether or not that helps them change their actions, I just kind of don't care. Sometimes punishment for the sake of punishment is good enough. It is righteous in its own right to punish the evils that are done unto other people. And I've rambled on probably long enough about this, but maybe you have a little more insight into what I do day to day. And probably you have more insight into why I want to do other things, if you care. And, I hope that maybe you're interested enough now in my story to do all of the YouTube things like comment, subscribe, etc., etc. You can buy my non existent merch in the description down below. It's not there, don't bother looking. But I hope you have a nice evening, and I thank you for listening to me ramble.